Hello, and good evening. Welcome to the NUFC 360 preview show. With me is Jack, Mark, and Michael. And what a time it is to be a Toon fan. We're going to preview the Southampton game, obviously, on Sunday, 2:00. Never a good time to go down to Southampton, but they always seem to make it more difficult anyway. So, guys, I'm going to pick some questions over to you guys. Let's get straight into it. The form table's looking good for Newcastle. We are top of the form table. Southampton are, I think, fourth bottom and very close to being bottom. We're going into this game, I assume, quite confident. That feels weird. It feels weird to be confident going in. So I'm assuming you chaps are confident. Michael, I'll start with you. Do you feel confident? And is it weird getting used to the consistency of or the wins and the performances?
Yeah, it is very weird. We're just saying to each other before coming on now, we still have that thing where we should be thinking we're gonna do this, aren't we? We're gonna smash this lot. I mean, everything is just looking like we should, and we still can't get out of that gear of thinking, but they could just. So yeah, it's very weird, but we should be nothing but confident, really, should we?
No, I think we've seen enough now to know that Eddie's not going to let the players, I think, rest on their laurels. I think we're going to keep up the consistent levels of performance. But Mark, how are you feeling? How are you feeling with the feeling? I guess is the question. with knowing that Newcastle are class and that we are consistent.
We are class. We are consistent. I can't think of a third C right now to round that out, but it just feels really odd. I sort of covered this on the last preview we did for the Villa game, just saying I still haven't adjusted. I don't think any of us have really fully adjusted, but I think my evolution is a lot more stinted than a lot of people's. I'm just still really not there with it, so it does feel strange. But yeah, I am sort of quietly confident going into this game, and this is the kind of game for me where, with a lot of away games in the Premier League, you often hear like, well, if you get a point away from home, it's usually a good result. This isn't one of those for me. Like Southampton, we'll get into it a bit, obviously, in a bit, but they're so bad. They're so bad. We have to get 3 points here if we want to, seriously be considered for the upper echelons of the European places. Fourth and fifth, sixth as well. Maybe you've got to get a win here.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned fourth and fifth because I hear it, and I hear a lot of fans talking about fourth, fifth, and Europe. Okay, how many of us really were thinking about Europe before the season started, and that suddenly our expectations have changed? Jack, how does it feel for you? Thinking, looking forward to potentially Europe next season. Do you remember a time when Newcastle were this consistent and you were this hopeful as a fan?
No, I don't remember a time, really, to be honest. But yeah, it's mad, isn't it? I mean, I thought, like that Villa performance in the second half could have scored about 8 goals. And that's not even like, people always sometimes exaggerate, but we actually could have scored 8 goals, overall. We absolutely battered them. It was such a comprehensive performance. It's not something that we're used to seeing, really. The confidence is flowing through the team. The team spirit seems incredible. I mean, Bruno doing that tweet about, Miggy for the player of the month, like such a nice thing. Doesn't have to do that, but, shows that they all really are fighting for each other. And the club's just pulling in the right direction. It's a great time to be a Newcastle fan, as you said at the start.
Yeah, excellent. And let's look ahead to the game on Sunday. I was actually at St Mary's last time out. I was actually in the home end, which was actually quite daunting. But I got to watch the Bruno goal, it was right in front of me to the side, and I couldn't celebrate it. That was just really, really hurt. But I remember that game. I remember Southampton caused us problems. We have got a lot better since then, and they seem to have regressed. Michael, what do you know about the Southampton players that are currently fit, and how many of them you think can hurt us? Do you think they have a chance against us, given that I think they've scored 4 goals in their last 6 games or something like that?
Yeah, that's where I was going to start. They can't buy a goal, can they? And we're the best defense in the league now, aren't we? Are we still? Aren't we, guys? I think so.
Yeah,
so
we are, I think
so really, it should be a shutout.
Yeah.
But but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, does it? I mean, I mean, I'm just so glad I'm not them. I mean, they're not great, are they? There is not one player there apart from maybe Ward-Prowse that anyone else would want to pick and have in their squad. Really, bless them. You know, they just seem to they're just like a car stuck in mud and just going round and round and round. And it looks like they're going to go forward and then they don't. And they're not a good team, which means they are probably going to beat us like 5-0 now. I've said that. So, but they're not a good team. So it shouldn't be a problem, should it? I know that. I mean, it's just that straightforward. We're class and they're not. So
fair enough. Excellent. All right. End of show. See you everyone.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. So,
yeah.
I remember actually down in St Mary's. I know we haven't had a great record down there historically, but actually in the last 5 years we've only lost there once.
Yeah,
we've got 2 wins and 2 draws. And last season, I think Che Adams caused us some problems. I think he hit the bar or hit the post from what I remember. And I think they had one of their other players, name eludes me now, who's actually injured at the moment, Carl Walker-Peters, who isn't going to be playing. Mark, how do you think Southampton can hurt us? Do you think this is potentially like a banana skin type of game? Because they have beaten Chelsea earlier on this season.
Yeah, I think the simple answer to that is only if we don't properly show.
Oh, he's stuck.
Seems to have lost Mark.
He's frozen. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to redirect the question to Jack then. Jack, are they going to hurt us, or what is this a potential banana skin?
You know, I mean, they're a strange team, Southampton. To be honest, they've beaten Chelsea. They got a 1-1 draw with Arsenal at home, but then they've also had some horrific results as well. They just look awful. They are the youngest team in the league. They've got a new policy where they're just going to try and buy the best young players from Europe, essentially. Quite a few injuries, though, and you just look at the lack of goals. I mean, Adam Armstrong's probably going to be starting up front. He's got 3 Premier League goals in 2 seasons. Well, 1 third seasons or whatever it is. It's just not enough, is it? Che Adams is a bit of a handful, but the only one I'm worried about is Lavia. If he's fit, he looks really good. The one from Man City, he dominated the game against Chelsea. So I'd be a bit worried about him. But our midfield has dominated most games this season. So it's it's one of those ones where we could be caught out, but I just don't think we will be. Maybe Newcastle of the past would have been, but I just don't see it. I think Southampton are, as I said, they were young sides, so they're inconsistent. You know, they haven't got any. They're still learning the game, a lot of them, and they've got some key injuries, so that might play a part.
Yeah, hopefully. Mark, you did freeze on us earlier. Do you want to have your say?
No, he's gone.
He's gone.
He's quit.
We'll crack on. All good. Okay. All right. So potentially Southampton could hurt us, but I think the general feeling is maybe not. Looking at Eddie Howe's press conference today, he said there were no new injuries, although he said there were bumps and everything sort of shrouded in a little bit of kind of like cryptic language, let's say. But there will be players on our team that will be looking to impress for the World Cup coming up. Let's assume everyone who was fit last week is fit again this week, and we know Joe Linton's suspended. What's the lineup looking like for you, Jack? How would you line up? Would you line up the same team and just replace Joe Linton?
Yeah. So I'd go Pope in goal, Trippier, Schär, Botman, Byrne. Bruno, Willock, Longstaff, Maxi, Almiron, Wilson. That's what I would go with. If Maxi's fit, get him in the team. Let's see it. Everyone's playing with such confidence. And I really want to see Maxi come to the fore as well and link up with Almiron, link up with Wilson, link up with Willock. I think it'd cause absolute havoc if we did that. I actually think he'd probably be on the bench, but that's what I want to see. I think Howe will go for Murphy. Which is fair enough. Murphy was brilliant on Saturday. He came on, made a real difference. But I want to see Maxi. I think it'd be Murphy.
Cool. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, as I said, I'll probably pose that question to the other two and say, what do you want to see, and what do you think Eddie Howe will do? I remember at the game at St Mary's just before kickoff, when the lineups were announced, there was no Joe Linton and no ASM either, from what I remember. And there was a little bit of kind of like disappointment there that how are we going to beat these? And I think it was Bruno's first start as well. So yeah, and actually we did fine without them. So Mark, glad you're back. How do you think we'll line up, and what do you think Eddie will do differently to how you think we should line up?
I don't expect many wholesale changes. Obviously, Joe Linton can't play with the suspension that he's got for picking up the 5 yellow cards. I think he'll probably bring in Murphy and then look to bring Maxi on later in the game. Don't think he'll risk Shelvey, and the form Longstaff saying it'd be harsh to drop him anyway. So other than that one change, I don't see anything particularly changing. Would I do the same? Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing he's managed to get a tune out of Murphy, and now we're like, yeah, he'll probably start Murphy, and it's like, in what world would that ever have happened before? You know? Wow. Michael, are you the same? Are you just keep the same team other than obviously the enforced change?
Yeah, I agree with the guys. I mean, I can't see why they would make any wholesale changes. Really, it's strange, like you said, not to be considering Maxi. You know, I mean, Murphy. If Murphy is the answer, what was the bloody question we would have said a year ago? But now, I mean, as I said against Villa, that moment when I looked over and I could see Shelvey and Maxi and all that, I thought, oh, this is great. This is just what we want. And even if he starts Shelvey, which I don't think he will, especially considering the game we've got on Wednesday, might be clouding some of that. I think, he might keep Shelvey in reserve for that. So I would expect him to probably put Murphy on and, not use Maxi at all, and probably use Maxi on Wednesday. So, but I mean, since Fulham, I think universally when he put that Fulham team out, we all went, well, what's this? And he hasn't looked back since. I mean, none of us can ever question anything he ever does again. Similar to Zach, we all thought, well, what's that all about? And then he went and did that. So, yeah, happy days.
It's funny, isn't it? Because no one has mentioned for quite some time now poor old Matt Targett. And usually when we talk about lineups, it's like, does Dan Burn start? And now it's like, Dan Burn starts. It's like he's part of a formidable defence. There's just no question. Slight concern, though, is without ASM and Joe Linton, look at that midfield. There aren't many goals in that midfield. I mean, unless Bruno pushes up, and I know he's already got a couple of goals, but just Joe Willock hasn't got on the score sheet. Sean Longstaff's had 1 goal, but doesn't look like he's particularly threatening from midfield. You guys concerned about that, Jack? Are you concerned about we've had 10 different goal scorers this season, but midfield, I don't know. Did those 3 inspire confidence to you?
I mean, Willock can score goals. We've seen it. And I think he's been unlucky this season loads of times. I've said this literally every time I've been on the podcast, that I think Willock's he's got to score at some point.
Yeah, enough times it's bound to happen, isn't it?
It's got to happen. It's got to happen. Why not this weekend? But it's got to happen. Like, he can score goals. He can finish. There's been so many times he's been unlucky. Some of them have been bad finishes. He didn't really have a chance last weekend against Villa, but that's the only game I remember this season where he hasn't had a chance to score a goal. So, it's just one of those. But I'm not actually worried about that, to be honest. I think there's goals all over the pitch. Wilson is in just unbelievable form. Give him a chance, he's gonna nick one. I think Murphy could even get maybe not at the post this time and potentially find the net. So there are goals in this team. I'm not too worried about that.
Okay, cool. Is there an argument to be had, Michael, that you would start Chris Wood in this game and save Callum Wilson potentially for the Chelsea game? I know probably that wouldn't go down well with Callum Wilson, but would that be something you would consider?
No, I don't. And I don't think Eddie will neither. Not with the midweek game. I think Wilson will start on Wednesday, but I can see it. No, not a Premier League game. No, unless he's got a niggle, then he might. So
apparently he's got a cold.
Has he really?
Oh well, maybe he revealed that in the presser this morning, didn't he?
So so that might change, obviously, because you've got another 24 hours to go before they even start probably thinking about who goes down with them. But no, I mean, why would you change anything about that team? And the best thing is, hopefully they're all going to, what Jack was saying about Willock, hopefully they're going to go, well, just think about later on, just, and then Willock goes, that's the cool thing now. Who do they watch? Do they watch Bruno all the time? Do they man mark, Miggy all the time? And then you got Wilson. So, yeah, Willock's time's going to come, and let's hope it's Sunday. And, and that wouldn't surprise me if another player suddenly has this massive burst like Miggy and like Joe Linton has, who just like become indispensable. And Willock could be that guy. He's that good. I mean, we saw that at the end of last year, didn't we? So last season, or season before, sorry.
I think I might put a cheeky fiver on Joe Willock now you said that. And see what happens. See what happens.
I
Maybe
apologize in
Sven Botman.
advance for you. I apologize in advance for you losing your money, but yeah.
Fair enough. Mark, I'll come to you for this final one then. So let's say Eddie does start with John Joe Shelby, which we think is unlikely, but let's say he does. Who are the best two other midfielders that would complement him in the lineup on Sunday if he were to start with Shelby?
I've always been of the opinion that our best midfield three, and this is going to be really harsh, but it's not an option anyway for the game because Joe Linton is obviously suspended. But I think our best midfield three combo when everybody's fit is Shelby, Bruno, Joe Linton, which is very harsh on Joe Willock. But I do feel like that's our strongest three, and it's for the most part it's because it allows Bruno to get higher up the pitch. So in this game, I would say it would be Shelby, Bruno, and Willock, because Willock is like right behind them for me. It is a difficult choice. And yeah, I mean, Jack hit the nail on the head. He's been so damned unlucky this season not to get a goal. He's done, especially recently, the past month, he's done everything, but hasn't he? He's really contributed so much to the team and hasn't got a goal. So I think it'll come for him. And I suppose the other thing as well, just thinking about it based off the previous question, goals from defence. We haven't had a huge number of those contributions yet this season, and I just feel like they're going to come. Like we've had a couple of goals from corners. Not one of them's come from Sven Botman or Dan Burn, both of whom look really dangerous on corners. Obviously, Fabian Schär's had his screamer, and then you got Trippier's free kicks. So there's goals all over the pitch, really, when you think about it. We've got a couple of players in reserve. Like it's almost like we're holding something back in the tank for later in the season. I mean, I hope so.
Wasn't there a couple of seasons ago like some crazy stat that like our defense were like responsible for like 90% of our goals?
Yeah, something ridiculous, wasn't it?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I think it was that season where was it Lejeune who got 2 against Everton in like the last couple of minutes or something?
Yeah,
it was
Jetro Willems.
Yeah. And Schär was getting goals for fun and stuff as well. Yeah,
Lascelles scored a couple of times. Yeah.
You just know that in 5 years' time, that entire era is just going to be a complete black spot in everyone's minds, and we all have forgotten about it. Yeah, cool. All right, awesome. Let's move on to score predictions then. So I'll start with you, Jack. Give us your realistic, your gut instinct scoreline.
3-1 Newcastle. Don't think we'll keep a clean sheet just because I fancy Southampton. Even against Arsenal, don't really create much, but they managed to get a goal. They've got players who can do that. So I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, but 3-1, and then I'm going for Botman to bullet a header into the back of the net, and that's definitely going to happen. It's going to be a Trippier out swinger, and he's going to arrive and smash it into the back of the net. And
excellent.
And then I think Wilson will score, and then I'm not sure on the other one, but 3-1.
Right. We'll be sure to clip that for next week.
Yeah, when we lose, yeah.
Mark, what's your gut telling you?
9-0.
9-0, another one.
Well, they're due one, aren't they?
They are due one.
No, in all seriousness, I'm going to go 2-0. I think 2-0 Newcastle win. I know I dropped out of the conversation when we're talking about Southampton. I just don't see them having that many goal threats. I think Che Adams is quite good on his day, but he doesn't have enough of those days. So hopefully he doesn't have one against us. And I just don't really see where other goals are going to come from in that team. And Kyle Walker-Peters is probably, for me, their best player. He's injured. Ward-Prowse hasn't really been on it this season for whatever reason. And I just don't feel massively threatened, which, again, feels really, really strange. And now that I've said that, all I do is worry and think, oh, God, what have I done? It does feel strange indeed. I keep saying to myself, okay, if we win the next one convincingly, then I'm going to let go of this feeling. Then each week, I'm like, no, I still feel like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Michael, what's your gut telling you?
Right. Well, mine is twofold because my wife is a Portsmouth supporter, so she would want me to say 5-1. So, but I'm going to be a bit more generous. I'm going to go 4-1 to us, obviously, and I'm going to give them a penalty. So I just can't, if we click again like we have done, I mean, teams must fear us now. They must, similar as that. So I think if we get the head of steam going like we've seen to in games, I think we could make it quite a comfortable. So I'm going to say 4-1 and we'll look to get 2 just to please Jack. There you go.
There you go. Interesting.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope for it.
Cool. I'm going to go 2-0. I can't see them scoring. Like I can't see. So I think it'll be a tight game. I'm not saying we'll breeze it, but I think we'll get a couple of goals. It'll be as I say. I think like Villa game fairly tight. I think Southampton will look to frustrate, and I think we'll unlock them in the second half. But yeah, it just feels weird saying that because I think we may well go third.
Yeah.
If we win, we may well go third, which is.
But they just don't look like a threat, do they? And again, I say this,
Nothing
and I'm like,
about it does.
But they've got like 54-year-old Walcott on the bench or whatever he is these days and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, honestly, be honest, do you know the first names of like half of their players? I don't.
No, but I do know their last.
I'm looking at them and I still don't know them.
Their last home game they drew 1-1 with Arsenal, so I think that tells you that they're not to be.
Yeah, Arsenal really didn't turn up at that game because I watched it. But
it's all down to us, isn't it?
I think that's what it comes down to. It's like I think I tried to say before I crashed out. I don't know if it came through, but I think the only way we don't get a result is if we don't turn up. I don't think it'll be because they'll hurt us particularly.
All right, cool. Well, with that being the last word, then I think there's only so many ways we can say Southampton are rubbish, right? Before we just run out different ways of saying it. So, I wish you all a good night. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Good night.
Bye all.